Okay. Welcome to the Sausage Factory. We are here today to talk about the devil. And if you have little ones in the room, it might be a good idea to send them away. So before we get into how the sausage is made, let's talk about the devil's various titles. I've seen Typhon, Baphomet. We'll be talking a lot about Baphomet, I think. I saw a really good one, Perditorum Raptor, which is the captor of the lost. I think that has like such a poetry to it. It's beautiful. And then, of course, we have Lord of the Gates of Matter and Child of the Forces of Time. Now, Lord of the Gates of Matter, that sounds familiar, right? Because what's the one for death?
Lord of the Gates of Death.
Oh, Lord of the Gates of Death?
The Gate of Death, I think it is. Yeah.
So we have those parallels. And Child of the Forces of Time.
I think that one's interesting because it's forces. It's
Yeah.
not Child of the Force of Time, which suggests to me, how time isn't necessarily linear and one path forward. There's forces going in either direction and past, present, future.
That's true. And
forces of
and time, Kronos, Saturn, ruler of Capricorn.
Yep.
That's kind of interesting.
Yep.
But it's interesting to me, the idea that, he could be the Lord of Matter as well as the Lord of Time. Because, I don't know, I get the matter part, but not so much the time. Maybe we can think about that as we're going through it.
I mean, matter, if you think of matter as Saturn as well, the structure, and Saturn is also time, and structures that form and grow and dissolve through time.
Yeah.
I think
time is a limiting and calibrating
restrictive
force as
thing.
well.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Interesting. Okay. Wow. That's a lot of philosophy for 11 in the morning. Okay. So what do you say? Shall we dive right into the astrology?
Sure.
Okay.
Obvious place to start.
Mm-hmm. And the devil is associated with Capricorn. Saturn is in rulership in Capricorn. Moon is in detriment. Mars is in exaltation. We'll see lots of evidence of that.
Yeah.
And Jupiter is in fall. So what references do we see to Capricorn in these cards? Do we see anything besides references to Capricorn?
Well, they're both very goaty.
Yeah, we've got goats everywhere. Although, Capricornus was actually a sea goat, right? Mm-hmm. What is a sea goat?
Well, it's like a centaur, but it's a head and four paws of a goat and the tail of a sea creature.
So sort of like a seahorse, but...
Which I think is a really old, archetype for Enki.
Really?
The Sumerian god Enki was said to be a sea goat. Took the form of a sea goat at times to travel through the waters and come up on land. And
that's interesting.
And it's kind of Enki, the whole Enki thing is kind of cool too, because he was known as the father of light. So that's another, Lucifer type imagery. And, Lord of the Sacred Eye. And then this card is the Hebrew letter for this card is the I.
Right. And I think he's associated with some travels to the underworld as well, which is interesting for this card in particular.
And he was the bringer of knowledge to mankind when, his sibling wanted to destroy mankind through this flood or whatever, and he wanted to save them and bring them knowledge. So the devil as, the redeemer.
The devil as the one who brings knowledge and the one who is our ally as well as our great enemy.
Yes.
Right. Okay. Our frenemy. All right. And it's also interesting because in Capricorn, that's December 22nd to January 20th-ish. We get the winter solstice, right?
Right.
So we get the shortest.
Right, the shortest, darkest day of the year.
Yeah, and the increase of the light from there.
Yep, and I think also if you place the signs of the zodiac on an astrology wheel, Capricorn ends up at the zenith, at the midheaven. It's like
That's true.
The height. That's why, a lot of the symbolism, the goat climbs the mountain.
The goat climbs the mountain,
and
right.
ends up at the top and at the zenith. I think Crowley said something about that this was a winter card, but if you look in the Thoth card, see all those forms that they say are the Martian canals?
Yes.
Which is a Mars thing, but
yes.
He describes them also as forms of madness, the hint of spring to come in the, depths of winter, the madness of spring. Like, that's...
I see
just,
it.
The opposite, on its way, but now it's on the increase because once you get the darkest day of the year, the light starts increasing from there.
So visually what we're talking about on the Thoth card is there's sort of this pinkish background, pinkish reddish, martial red background, and then there are these sort of spidery, webby
kind of egg membrane-y
things. Which were described, I think, was it by Lady Frida or by Crowley himself as canals of Mars?
Yeah, I think Frida said they were canals of Mars.
Artist rendition.
Yes.
Liberally interpreted. Yeah. And what's interesting is also the connection with Saturn as the ruler of Capricorn. I think we associate Saturn with, or the father time with the magic weapon of the lamp, like in the Hermit. Mm-hmm. And so that's interesting to me because there are a lot of themes of light and sight in the devil card. And, the idea that you go into the darkness and you have this bright light. Right.
And that ties into the Hebrew letters meaning of the eye.
Exactly.
I think I like to think of one thing I think of with this card is, it's seeing that the forces of time and the forces of matter are illusory in a sense, opening your eyes to that they're not exactly solid as we think they are.
Interesting. And there, if you notice, on the Thoth card, definitely, he's got that third eye, right? On goat with a third eye. I mean, goats have creepy looking eyes to begin with, but this one's got 3 of them. And then on the Rider-Waite, you also have sort of some eye imagery. Well, it's kind of not clear.
It's coming out that a verse pentagram is coming out of his third eye. Area.
Which is, again, that averse pentagram is the 4 points over 1, the matter over spirit. So the spirit point is aligned with the eye. The other thing we should probably talk about astrology wise is the presence of Mars in this card. Why there's a giant dick on the Crowley card.
Well, why not?
Yes.
For once, we don't have to imagine and wonder if it's really a phallic reference.
Yeah, it's really out there. I mean, it's the junk is hanging out right there on the card,
right up there. Yeah.
And Crowley, I think specifically intended this to be super phallic. The idea that Mars, the male principle, is exalted in Capricorn, and it's super exalted.
Oh yes, it's got wings, as they say.
It's as exalted as can be.
And, there's also a very subtle phallic reference in the Rider-Waite-Smith card in that he's got ears of the ass, which is a very subtle, I think, reference to the Roman god Priapus, the one,
really?
the god with the giant wing.
Yeah.
On the statue usually.
Yeah. Wow. Trying to see if I've looked for this before in Hull's, he sees things. He said that there was a glyph of like Mercury in the Rider-Waite's
genital area.
I've heard I don't see it.
Whenever I hear people say things like that, a lot of times I'm like, I don't know about that.
I just can't. I mean, I'm as close as I can be, closer than I want to be, and I'm not seeing it.
Yeah.
Anyway, so but furthermore, as if it weren't enough to have the giant phallus on the Thoth card, it is actually piercing the ring of, what is it, Newt? Mm-hmm. Okay, so this is a...
Nuit or Nuth or...
Yeah.
Newt, there's very many forms. I think Crowley actually specifically refers to Nuith, as that form, and that is the form of Nuit that's like manifest. So rather than this starry sky as being like this arching ephemeral thing, it's more her personified. And that form is when she takes matter or something like
more corporeal.
Something like that. When that name is used, it's when she's embodied. Yeah,
and isn't there sort of a connection with Bina through that, and with Saturn, of course,
right?
Again, ruler of Capricorn, so it all kind of loops around to connect. So it's we have the Great Mother's presence in this card of in flagrante delicto intercourse. Okay, so anyway, we've sort of touched on the Kabbalah. We might as well keep going.
Might as well dive into it.
Yeah. So as you were saying, it's associated with Hebrew letter Ayin, which means eye. And wow, do we ever have references to that as far as, first of all, we saw those third eyes sort of pointed out in both of them.
And it's also the single, it's a single letter, and the word associated is mirth.
Ah, right. Yeah.
Which is kind of cool. I like that association of the devil with mirth. Now, Crowley's goat definitely has a smirk. Waits is frowning, so he doesn't look as mirthful, but still.
It's interesting. He looks to me, though, like his face is almost mask-like. It reminds me of, Japanese depictions of demons. There's something that's play acting about it.
Yep.
Yeah. And also another interesting site reference is that in some systems we believe this devil in the Rider-Waite-Smith card is the archangel Uriel. And Uriel was supposed to, or Uriel, he was supposed to be the sharpest-sighted of all the angels. Interestingly enough. Yeah. His name actually means God is my light.
Oh, another light reference.
Yeah, like Lucifer.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And I was looking up last night to try and see if there was some kind of conflation of Uriel and Lucifer, but I couldn't find any. Nevertheless, he is also considered an angel of wisdom, a wisdom bearer, and a ruler over Tartarus. So the parallels are
interesting. Yeah, that's pretty strong.
Yeah. And the other thing that I found out this week, so there are 4 archangels, right? There's Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, and Uriel. And 3 of them are named in scripture, but not Uriel. Uriel's, not actually literally named. He's
booted out of heaven.
Yeah. And what's really funny is that I was in the crystal shop this week because I was reading. I do that every week, and I wanted to get a little Michael medallion for my son because he's the patron saint of fencers, sort of. So has a sword. So I went and there's a basket full of archangel medallions, and I find one, and I say to the owner of the shop, I asked him to help me find one, and as we're looking through it, I noticed that there's tons of Uriel medallions in there, and he's like, yeah, we have to buy them in sets of 4, and nobody wants Uriel. So it's literally chock full of Uriel medallions. Poor Uriel, but I'm sure he has the last laugh.
Yes. He needs some sympathy.
He does. So, and by the way, I should have said this in the astrological section, but if you look at the palm of the Rider-Waite-Smith, there may be a Saturn glyph on it.
Yeah.
There's definitely something going on there.
Yeah.
It's pretty stylized. It looks kind of, it's a little
It might be Saturn. It kind of looks like that.
It kind of looks like Saturn. It's got that, the cross and then this, a little bit of the sickle.
Yeah, it's hard to say for sure, but it's plausible.
Yeah. Okay, so the path goes from Tiferet to Hod, from beauty to glory, from the sun to Mercury.
Which I find really interesting, this whole sun and Mercury again, they're a natural pair. And also the devil card is associated with both the Fool and the Magus cards as like a natural progression of those 2 cards. So Pan was the son of Hermes, I believe.
Right.
Yeah, so there's like a real connection there between the sun and Mercury, and here it is on the path between the sun and Mercury. And
right, so you're thinking of like Keter as the sun, as far as the
Tiferet as the sun,
right?
But on the central pillar leading up to Keter, ultimately.
So, but the Fool as well, we have the Fool as air, the Magus as Mercury. And we have kind of connections to both of them. As you're saying, the Pan connection with the Fool, and then the Mercury connection with the Magus. And this idea. Go ahead.
There's another thing about the fact that it's the path between Hod and Tiferet. The Mercury thing. So we see very obvious kind of twin symbolism here. And just like in the Lover's card for Gemini, the sign of one of the signs of Mercury, there's obviously twins in both cards, really, in a sense. And then
there's they come in pairs.
Yes, they do. Yeah, and you see that. So, what other cards do you see twins on? The Lovers and the Sun,
right?
And so we have
Gemini
and Mercury,
and then
the Sun and
the twins of the Sun.
Yeah,
the solar twins. Right.
There's definitely something going on there.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah, and there's definitely something about Hod. This idea with Hod that you systematize, you take matter and you kind of organize it into systems and forms in a way that's very mercurial.
Capricious
almost. Yeah.
And this path itself, so if you look at it, it's at an angle, on the left side, I guess, from our point of view. So it goes
sort of down from the sun to the lower left from our point of view.
And so that's mirroring the path above it, that same angle, the Magus. Another Hermes reference.
Yes, that's right. So the Magus goes from Keter to Binah.
Right. So it's just the same angle, but one step above. And I think that's kind of interesting to reflect on.
That is. And it's also, if you are, if you look at the Rider-Waite-Smith card, he is pointing. It's kind of the wrong way. But again, if you look at it, from the opposite direction, it could be the right way.
Yeah.
With one hand up towards the center and the other down towards.
And then if you look at the opposite path,
then we have
death.
Right?
So the gates of death, and that makes the devil, like, in a sense, the gates of life. Matter, being born, taking incarnation. So we have the devil going from Tiferet to Netzach, the exact mirror image of the devil going from Tiferet to Hod. Even though the Golden Dawn's path attributions are so different from the ones we find in Judaism, we find interesting parallels all over the place. The system works. The system works. It does. It does work. No matter. That's one thing you really can't deny, that it works.
And I think part of that is just human flexibility and capacity to read meaning into any system. But nevertheless, it's very satisfying when you see these mirror images all over the tree, and and it has a certain sense of inevitability somehow.
Another cool thing about those two paths of the devil and death. So you see, if you drew those two paths on the tree, you'd have Tiferet kind of at the peak of a roof between Hod and Netzach. And they called that particular section of the tree, or I've seen it called, the City of the Sun.
Oh, really?
Isn't that kind of cool?
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah. So it's almost like, so you've got the death and then temperance and then the devil sort of all under this sort of
the
eye
umbrella.
Of the sun.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. The sun's rays, two rays coming down, kind of. Which I like that.
I like that.
I find it kind of poetic. But, one of the reasons I think this card gets such a bad rap is the whole, like, especially in the Waite-Smith card. I mean, they've got chains on. They're like chained to this cube with a chain around their neck. And it's seeing that time and matter are kind of illusions, but without seeing that, you're kind of bound to matter and to this sense of time. And I think Crowley said that all manifestations, however glorious, are stains, because perfection is nothingness, basically. Right.
The stain of matter.
Right.
Yeah. And, I was thinking about this concept of binding, after doing that sort of essay on girdles for the Empress. And there's something about the idea of binding that, we think of it as negative in witchcraft, the idea to bind someone and prevent somebody from doing something. But when people bound themselves through history, it was almost like a form of focus, or sort of like saying, okay, this is an act of compulsion. I'm going to make myself do this, or I'm going to make someone else do this. It's something about limiting your focus to the thing that you have to do, which to me is interesting, both in terms of like the devil preventing you from moving on to whatever it is you need to do, but also the devil forcing you to focus with his sharp eye on the thing that you need to do. Right. Almost
like sensory deprivation.
Yeah.
One pointed
laser focus. Yeah. Right. Or that moment, since this is clearly a sex card, that moment in sex where you can't think about anything else, everything else is blocked out.
Right. I suppose we could move into some of the symbols that we haven't talked about. There's a couple.
Well, numerically, I also just wanted to dip in about the 15 and the 6, right?
Yeah.
Because we've got the devil, Trump 15, and we've talked about this amazing connections it has with the 6, the lover's card.
Right.
Where, and this is especially obvious in the Rider-Waite-Smith, right? We talked about it a little bit, but you can literally see the parallels in the iconography, the sort of presiding angel. And remember, we have angels or fallen angels. Uriel's in this card. And then we have temperance, we have judgment, and we have, the lovers. And, people argue over which angel is in which, but there's definitely a total of 4 archangels, just like we have in scripture. So, and so we have that, and then we have the literal Adam and Eve figures, like we saw, and then with their chains around their necks, loosely, people like to say, the idea that they don't have to be there. And then those parallels with the tails are fascinating. So you were saying about the tail on the guy, the flame there. Was that's the one that corresponds in the lover's card to the tree of life or the tree of knowledge? I'm trying to remember. I'll take it out and see, because
I would say the tree of knowledge would be the flame one, but that's just my guess because of the whole light, knowledge and bringing light and fire and flame and that.
Yeah.
And then the other, but then that one has the serpent in it.
That one has the serpent
in it. The tree of life
has
the serpent in it on the lover's card. So
Right. I mean, those two trees are always getting conflated anyway, but I like the idea of the tree of knowledge perhaps being on the Eve side, the idea that she has this relationship with the serpent, and then here she is with the grapes on the devil card, and the grapes are like a full reference, and there we have again a reference to Pan and the serpent perhaps. But
another thing that occurred to me, so the lover's card, this reduces to 6 in the lover's card, that's the card of the sword. So that when you think of the path of the flaming sword, that connects every Sephirah to every other Sephirah. Then you have an equivalent to that is the path of the serpent that connects every path to every other path.
Yeah.
So then you've got serpent and sword, just like you could say serpent being associated with the devil and sword being associated with the lovers, which I think is kind of cool.
So what is the difference between the path of the serpent and the path in the lightning flesh?
It's the serpent of wisdom, I think they call it, and if you look at a diagram of the tree, ever see one with like a snake wrapped around? Well, just like the path of the flaming sword is connecting each of the sephira in orders.
Is it in the same order? The two paths? I mean,
I'm not sure. I think it's starting at the top and going down, and just like similarly, but it's the coils of the serpent loop around each path. So it's connecting all the paths in a kind of awkward looking way. Right.
The lightning flash where you skip several, the serpent actually touches every path.
I think so. I'd have to look at the diagram again, but I think it's connecting the paths in some order.
You know what? I'm going to grab the big black book.
Get a diagram
out.
It's in there. Check it out.
Okay, so Path of the Serpent. We should maybe put a diagram up on the website.
Yeah, Serpent of Wisdom. So we just verified and looked at it. It does indeed. The serpent touches each of the 22 paths,
whereas the lightning flash is kind of a more linear.
Each of the sephirot.
Each of the sephirot. Yep. Okay. Good. So
that was a cool, another cool. Like sword and serpent connection. So devil lovers connection.
Another thing about the goats, I think that Waite specifically talks about his devil as being the horned goat of Mendes, which is
Baphomet.
Yeah, which is a Baphomet figure. Clearly
almost a duplicate of Levi's drawing.
Yeah. That's a really nice picture too. I think maybe is worth putting up there because Eliphas Levi, he did this drawing of Baphomet, which really solidified the connection between the devil and Baphomet in people's minds starting in the 19th century, and has been used by many people as sort of a shorthand for satanic, connections and satanic rituals. So it's part of this sort of attempt to make the devil into a figure of fear. And I think also Crowley says something about a connection between Saturn, Seth, Shaitan, and Satan, the idea that these, that these figures are all interlinked in some way.
Right.
As figures of darkness.
And interestingly, I think he mentions that all of those figures, no matter which of those names you just said, all have the same letters, the Shin, the Tau, so I thought that was
and
kind
I think
of
that's legit, I mean, I think etymologically we see that when language shifts, when words shift, it's the consonants that kind of stay the same and the vowels that shift so that,
Thus Santa is quite evil.
Right.
What's that joke about dyslexic devil worshiper worshipping Santa or something like that?
To me, the two cards really kind of encapsulate the different views people have had of devil figures or, life force figures. I mean, Pan was worshipped as a legitimate god, not as a figure of evil. And you kind of see that more in the Crowley card, right? Whereas the Waite devil really has that feeling like it's trying to evoke a sense of evil and fear. It's very Christian feeling. It's the iconography with the bat wings is, the idea that we see in many devil figures from the Marseille era that you have this chimeric figure who is an abomination of nature. So he's got like the bat wings for air. He's got the torch for fire.
Claw feet.
The claw feet, which are like Scorpio, which is water. And then his body being the earth and matter.
Salt of the earth.
Or maybe even this block that he's standing on.
Yeah, that could be a salt.
Could be too.
Matter. I mean, it makes me think of the emperor and his cubic throne.
Yeah.
And that's kind of a Marzi reference.
I think that there's, again, with the contrast between the two, there's also a sort of sex positive, sex negative thing going on. There's joy and ecstasy in one of them and kind of shame and where's my fig leaf in the other.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the cards that when in an actual reading with people, it gets such a reaction and a little easier to use the Thoth card in readings with people because they don't get that immediate, like choky feeling like, oh my God, there's the devil. I've done something horribly wrong, But
I like the devil card.
I
personally.
do too. I mean, I think it's worthwhile to recognize that we don't, it's not just about addiction or binding or, or force or matter over spirit and materialism. It's also about enjoying life and, and being the master of the game. And in a sense, that Capricornian ability to deal with money and strategy and,
and
all of the.
It's an unstoppable force.
Yeah.
That craving is what drives us, that craving for life.
It's a survival instinct. And this is a good time actually to talk about the associated minors maybe, because we have, the 3 Capricorn minors,
the 2, 3, and 4
discs, which are the lords of change, the lord of work, and the lord of
works.
Right.
And power.
So, if you think of those as being essentially Capricornian areas of interest, the idea that life changes, the idea that, Capricorn, the workaholic of the zodiac.
Right. And so the change card that, again, there's that driving force, that like expansion and contraction
because the 2 of discs specifically is Jupiter and Capricorn with that Saturn,
right.
Jupiter piston engine going.
But it's basically, that it's a force of going, constantly moving, never stopping. And then with the next card, works, a sense of building something from blocks of matter, if you will.
Right.
Blocks
so you have the motive force, and then you have the thing it acts on, and then you have the accomplishment, the power.
Right. The stability, the fortress, And holding on to where you've got to, that zenith point you've gotten to, you kind of, there's a little bit of a plateau there where you want to cling to it. Yeah,
there is. I mean, there's that posture of hoarding in the Wade Smith 4 of Pentacles. But also it's interesting because, if you look back in time to the Marseille decks, they always have like a shield in the middle of the 4 of discs, because that's sort of like the family's accumulation of power and wealth, the stability that comes from having done this over and over, gone through the change, work, power cycle, for generations, and having accumulated this mass of stuff that represents stability if you're a hoarder. But yeah, so I think that's cool. Sometimes it's interesting when you're, grappling with a zodiacal major to look at the minors and see what they can tell you.
So we've got the 3 decans of Capricorn, the first one with a Jupiter influence, the second one with a Mars influence, and the third one with a solar influence.
Right. So it's all quite male.
Yeah.
Right.
Speaking of, we haven't talked about the testicles in the Thoth card. They're kind of interesting what's going on in there. There's 4 male figures in one and 4 female figures in the other.
I did not realize that.
So that's 8 figures in total.
For a Hode Mercury reference,
perhaps.
Right? And there are 10 chromosomes in each, supposedly.
Right, okay.
Not sure what that relates to. And
it looks like there's some little solar glyphs there.
Is that true?
It looks like there's 4 little suns. See those radiating?
Like here,
those 4 things.
So on either side, sort of at the on either sides of the equators of the testes,
right?
You've got sun-ish glyphs.
Yeah, it's really strange too. It looks like the male figures are sort of bowing to a minotaur type.
It does
figure.
look like that. Could it be a goat, or do you think it's a minotaur?
It's hard to say.
It's
definitely animal.
Oh wait, look at this. If you look really closely, I know this looks like a sort of like horns, but if you look at it, you can sort of see like an elongated chin looking up at Pan with horns in back. So if you look real close, that kind of looks like a face looking up at the goat.
Yeah, it's hard to say what end I'm looking at here, honestly.
Yeah,
but
Yeah, I see. There's actually a nose, right? And an ear. Yeah, that's definitely a face. Looking up.
Yep, looking
turned
up
towards up towards the goat.
Yep.
Yeah.
And his posture looks kind of like Typhonian there.
So what about Typhon?
Yeah, well, there's definitely got to be an association there.
Now the Typhon, the actual monster Typhon was serpent-like, right?
Yeah.
Is that correct?
So more serpent reference.
More serpent references.
And I've also heard the concept of the holy guardian angel referred to as a serpent.
Really?
Yeah.
So, a grantor of knowledge as well.
Yep.
And then there's the serpent that's associated with Yggdrasil too, right?
Yep.
Right. What about the, what's the story with the Urias wand or the Urias disc and the wand of the adept?
We can, if we want to laugh at another phallus reference, I believe that Snuffin says that the wand of the chief adept here that we see is winged, which means it's erect. Lifted up.
Wow. So, well, that's interesting. That's something to look for. Winged phalluses and, or winged references. I mean, we see the wings in the devil card in the Waite Smith as well. The idea that it's borne aloft.
Yeah.
Defying gravity. Yeah, and actually there's sort of ghostly wings in the Thoth card as well, sort of those.
Yeah, they almost look like bat wings themselves, those forms.
They're evocative of bat wings,
yeah,
I think.
And kind of abstract way they remind me of bat wings. And then there's the horns of the goat, or the spiral horns, and spiral again is always something to me that suggests the form of life, the building,
DNA, the
DNA, the helix, the building blocks of life, the Fibonacci sequence.
Oh yes,
as the plant grows, and
in horns as well. You see that spiral, the golden
ratio, as they're growing.
Yep. Yeah,
and between that spiral symbolism and these beings that are in the testicles of the figure, I don't know. I think it's a really good reminder that this card is about manifesting as yet unlived potentials within you, and some of that feeling of negativity or craving is when you don't let those out and you suppress those. They want to get out. Yeah.
And if you don't let them out, then you have demons of a different kind to struggle with, and you may be escaping for solace in other directions because you're not expressing,
you're not fulfilling you're not fulfilling your potential.
Right. That's a really interesting way to look at it. What about the color? I kind of don't understand Lady Frida's use of color here, because
it's like she is using the colors.
So what are the
scale.
four colors?
So there's the indigo of Saturn and black, and then there's
blue black.
Yep, blue black and cold dark gray. But then she's clearly mixing in some reds and oranges. So I'm guessing Mars and Hode references there as well.
And within the winged member itself, there's almost a golden quality. I don't know. It reminds me. It could be Tiferet.
Right. So yellow, orange, and red definitely are present in the card.
A solar kind of feel to it.
Yeah.
I think it's quite lovely, actually.
Yeah,
but I think your Tabula Mundi devil is more faithful to the color scales, and I just love that blue black color. I think
I do too.
Just ravishing.
Yeah, it's a great color. And in my card, I put the DNA spirals in there because it kind of fits in.
Well, what's really interesting, I remember I was using before you had it colored in the black and white version, I remember I was using it and I was finding that I was drawing the devil from your deck when I would go to get my shots, my allergy shots. So there was this
interesting,
this thing of things mixing into your bloodstream and, to create an alliance with matter so I wouldn't be fighting the allergies.
That's really cool.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
At first I was like, what is this? And then I was like, oh, well, there's this whole connection with
Right, the blood and
the blood and
yeah. Yeah, I think, the only thing I have more to say on this card is that I find it helpful to remember that God and the devil are the same being, actually, in a sense. They're all manifestations of the one thing.
Of the divine. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's true. I think that, sometimes we get too caught up in the Christian era, of the separation of good and evil.
Yeah, the duality of everything.
Right. And trying to push away half of yourself, in an attempt to embrace the light. But we need both parts for completion. Yeah. Interestingly, there are some plant references that I just was sort of going through the rulership book a little bit, and there's some like
marijuana,
poppy and hemp.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Definitely the sort of intoxicants that things that alter your mind or your perception in particular, because perception is such a huge part of this card. Time, for some reason, I don't know why, is associated with the devil and with Capricorn.
Time, the plant, as opposed to time.
Yeah. Oh, well, maybe it's a pun.
Yeah,
Who
exactly.
knows? Could be. Ruby, onyx, black diamond. So these chthonic, underground kind of stones.
Powerful, potent, grounded.
Yeah, and that's another thing that we haven't really touched upon is the idea of
mushrooms.
Oh, mushrooms
themselves, like not only the psilocybin mushrooms for their intoxicating, but just the fact that a mushroom has so much life force. Mm-hmm. I remember seeing once a photograph of a mushroom that had pushed its way through the tar of a freshly tarred road because it just wanted to grow. Out of the darkness, it just came right up out through the tar.
There is some evidence that when you're in a forest, the trees communicate via the mycelium, the mushroom network.
That's actually supposed to be the largest living being is mycelium, because it can go for acres and acres and acres and all be connected.
Right. And, when you think about that really kind of messes with your definition of sentience, because they are, communicating in some way, just not the way we communicate, but there is this sort of linkage between matter and understanding of speaking the same language. And I wanted to also say that with all of these what they call the chthonic gods, the Hades,
the underworld gods,
exactly, Beelzebub,
subterranean.
The even with this idea of Uriel as a governor of Tartarus and Pluto, there's this idea that there's riches as well as death beneath the earth, right? So you mine for gold, you mine for diamonds. Plutocracy, of course, is the rulership by the wealthy. So again, there's this sort of Lord of the Gates of Matter, king of wealth, king of riches.
The dragon over his hoard.
Mm-hmm, exactly. This idea that there's this mastery and understanding of money in a way that can both be, obsessive and problematic, but also empowering of great enjoyment of life. So in terms of smells, it's really pretty interesting. I didn't bring any
What does
sulfur.
the devil smell like?
Seriously. I didn't bring a vial of spunk or something. Oh my God. Okay. Now,
hairy balls. No. You'll have to delete that, but I couldn't resist.
Do we have to? I think we keep it in. Okay, so with all of these earth creatures, with all the earth smells, signs, and element and planets,
animalian smells.
Yeah, animalic stuff. We get civet. We get musk. I have benzoin here too, but I have the civet here. You can smell if you like.
Benzoin. Wasn't that a Venusian one as well?
Oh, everybody uses benzoin.
Okay.
It's sort of like frankincense, This is the one. Now, were you able to smell Clever Beast without keeling over? Because
I was able to. Yeah.
Okay, good, because that's in this. This is synthetic civet, and here is my Capricorn perfume is called Clever Beast, and it's based on civet, musk, and leather.
Oh, yeah,
I think.
That's nice.
So there's just animals all over it. Yeah. I like that one.
I like that one too.
Yeah. That's a clever beast for all you Capricorns out there. It'll be on sale in the month of Capricorn. So what I do is I give a 20% off sale for the sign for throughout the month, kind of a thing. And the note associated with Saturn. So this is the musical note for the devil is always a bit of an issue because you remember that it's sort of like red is C, orange is D. It just goes up the scale. So when we get to the higher end of the scale, we're getting to sort of blue, purple, and I guess black is implied by blue and purple because it's not implied by red and orange and yellow. So for that, I think that the association for Capricorn is basically blue, black, or indigo. Yeah. So
it's indigo on the king scale. So
yeah. So what we've been doing a lot of G sharp for blue colors, and now we move up to A, which is the note associated with the devil because it is associated with bluish, black, indigo, something like that.
A sounds appropriate.
Yeah, it sounds kind of appropriate. I mean, A for Ayin.
That's what I was thinking, kind of.
Yeah.
Sort of.
Kind of, sort of. Yeah. And it's not the final note of the scale. We still have B and purple. There's just this sort of moment in between where we use A natural for blue for this indigo color. Okay. Is that everything? I think
it is.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of themes, and I hope that we've done something to improve your relationship with this card. If it needed improvement, it does for a lot of people. We've talked about the idea of sight and visual stimuli. We've talked a lot about sex. We've talked about binding and the idea of mastery over matter and the different forms of compulsion and contract associated with binding, like tying the knot.
Wisdom. Unlived potential. And the illusion of the forces of matter and time.
Indeed, the illusion of control thereof as well.
Yes.
All right. So thanks for sticking with us through this exploration of Beelzebub. And
Pleased to meet you.
And we'll be back next time. I'm sure you can't wait with the tower.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun.